to the RunRX Podcast, where we talk about all things running. As many runners know, it's 90% mental. So join Coach Valerie and Coach Caroline as we go through the mental side of running.
Welcome back to the RunRX Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Caroline, and I'm here with Coach Valerie. Coach, we were talking recently about, there are some more marathons coming up. We have some marathons that have been completed, some big ones recently. What happens as a coach within the training between a marathon and just regular training? Can you talk about that?
Sure. And in fact, right now in our running group, we have one just finished, but like 4 or 5 people have all been training for marathons. And, remember with our group, we're online. So everyone's all over the world. So we're not training together in person. So we get to hear about it. And as a coach, I like to remind people that I'm working with people that are about to run their marathon or thinking about running a marathon, or maybe will never run a marathon. But what the challenge is as their coach, I'm making sure they get to the race line as prepared as they can be, right? Like that's my goal for you. And then also with the reality of life, that the marathon itself, and anyone out there that's run one knows, they're not always exactly as they don't go exactly to plan every time. So you also have to prepare your runner for that and prepare yourself as a coach. Like I used to take it all personally. Every time somebody would have a race that wasn't 100%, I would be like, what could I have done different? What did I do? Right. And the reality is sometimes it's nothing. It's that you did, or even the runner did. But the challenge with training for something that big is it takes over everything. I mean, everything's about the marathon, your eating schedule, your sleeping schedule, your training schedule, right? It really takes over. And I will say this though, the success rate, I mean, just to kind of boast on RunRX, we've been so fortunate because our runners are working on learning how to run. So even if they don't have the best race of their goal race, every one of them has said it was so nice though to be able to have the running, to be able to get back to running in the race, right? And so you feel good that way. And then usually what happens when you finish the marathon, even if maybe you cross the line flying high. Remember, like we had one guy run New York and he was like, it was just like the stories. I was flying, the miles went by, I was high-fiving people. It was just, I mean, we're all like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then we had someone that was like, man, my wheels came off. 24 kilometers of just flying. And then my wheels just came off. So we go through, as the coach, I go through all of those races. I go through them, and I've done them too. So the challenge that you face as a runner and as a coach is, one, you cross the finish line with the excitement of, I can't wait to sign up for my next one, and I'm just going to get back to training. Or what most people, that can happen. Or we go through like, oh man, I don't even want to get out there and run. I don't want to, you know what I mean? That's it. I don't even know if I am a runner, to have some people go through kind of a, post-marathon blues. And then, and so the other challenge that we see with our runners, because most people come to us with an injury, like maybe, a shin splint or planters or whatnot, and they so badly want to get back to racing because it's the worst thing when you're not able to race because you're injured. And so we got creative and created a RunRX. We started with a reboot, which by the way is still on our YouTube channel. And now I'm updating that I'm calling it a RunRX reset. And it's for everyone. It's really for anybody, but it's for if I've already run a race and I'm in that mode where I know I want to get back to it, but maybe not quite yet. Or I'm not injured, but I really don't feel like racing, but I want to just get back to running consistently and just feeling good with my running. Or of course, because we're RunRX, you have an injury. But we created this program because the basis of what we teach is running, right? And so the fun part is once you start to realize that running is something you can actually practice and work on and get better at, it changes your whole mindset on race training, on racing itself, on running for recreation, because all of a sudden you realize, I think for a lot of people, they get into marathon training and long distance running because they think that's what will make them like running more. And right. But then
Right.
you get into these long runs, and what sometimes the feedback we've gotten is, man, that was tough, or I didn't feel what I wanted. And imagine if you didn't know anything about technique at all or form, you would attribute it to your shoes or the weather, which sometimes can be true, but you would, or I just had a bad day, or I just had a bad run. Whereas when you come to us, we're like, well, let's talk about that. What were you feeling during the run? Could you feel that you were falling? How were your pulls? How was the running? You see, like it starts
Yeah.
to become a different conversation. And what I wish we could get across to people the most is that whether you just came off a good race, whether you just want to like to run at all or race again or any of that, if you first come into running or come back to running with the how-to part along with it, it'll change your next race or your next run, I think, on how you recover, how you think about it, and your kind of your positivity towards just wanting to get better at running first and then racing second.
So as a coach, when you do have that runner that it just didn't go well, or maybe it went fine, they kind of maybe their goal was just to finish, or to finish under not necessarily a PR, but under 5 hours or something like that. But they hit that malaise. They're now like, am I a runner? They're kind of that depressed kind of feeling like, now what do I do? How do you
Right.
as the coach me out of that malaise, that I don't want to run, I don't want to go work out? What do you do as my coach to try to kind of coax me out of that, get me back out there? Let's go out there and see what how do you do that?
Well, I do it by, let's go back to the running fundamentals. Let's go back
Yeah.
to the base of running. Let's go back to the elements of running. The running itself here's the thing too, by the way. And there's 3 elements of the gait cycle. There's the pose, which is your alignment. There's free falling using gravity, and there's the action of running, which is the pull, right? Pulling your foot up from the ground. And it sounds very simple. You just have to stand in the right pose. You just have to hold yourself in the right line, and you just have to pull your foot. The biggest challenge people face in running is the free falling. First, they don't even know about it. And second, they skip it. Like we see
Yeah.
people do this all the time with us, where they come in to RunRX, they're so excited just to get back out running because mileage is still king, and that's still how you value running. So as soon as they feel like they can start going out for distance again, we see them leave to go running, and they don't develop that relationship with the falling. And so the joy isn't where it could be. And I know it sounds a little hokey. I promise you guys, I tell people it took me 3 years to not just understand it, but to feel it and use it. And this is a really important part of running. People are always asking me how to breathe. That's the number one I get. How do I breathe? And I think, well, you know how to breathe. What you don't know is how to connect your breathing to your running. But first, let's let you feel what is running. Because as soon as you're actually running, you'll start to realize you might have actually just been working too hard. And that's why the breathing was off. And the fun part for me, and this is, and sometimes, by the way, and this, guys, is for everybody, sometimes you have to get through that marathon because I need you as your coach to know you can. As your coach, I already have full confidence that you'll finish. And that's really important for people to understand. I wouldn't even recommend you run a marathon if I didn't really think you could run one. Although a lot of people, and this is true, will run one before they could actually truly run one. They'll how should I say? They will finish their marathon before they will run a marathon. And I've done both. And I can tell you, to run a marathon is way more fun than just to finish or just to cross the line. But sometimes people are like, no, Valerie, I want to just cross that line first, and then I'll run one. And I'm like, okay, if that's what you want. And I always say to them, because when you truly, really let yourself learn how to run and be okay with it's just fundamentals, it's just drills, it's just practice. All of a sudden, when they start to connect with it, and usually we've seen this, right? We just had someone else do this. Someone ran a marathon. It wasn't his greatest, but now he knows he can run. He's really sparked. He's excited to just go, okay, fine, this time I want to run one. So he's willing to put himself back through the fundamentals. We have someone else that finished their run and they said, okay, it really hurt. They had hurt themselves before. They probably should not have finished the run. They did anyway. That's okay. We're okay with you. We're, no judgment. We know. So now we're like, all right, let's get you back to where let's get you to where you really feel good with the fundamentals. And then let's increase your volume. You already know you can finish the marathon. However, this person is like, I want to believe you. I really do. But I'm still going to use this high volume, high mileage. This is my challenge to all of you runners out there. Until you really feel what a really good mile feels like, it's hard to have you go, let's keep going more mileage. And I think that's where I hope runners come back to. That doesn't mean I limit you to 1 mile, guys. Because a lot of us that are distance runners know that first mile is the toughest one, right? Right. A lot of times that first mile, you're still warming up, you're getting into it. So my point is, let me get you to where you really love running. And then the miles don't seem so daunting. Then you don't have this pressure of like, I have to run this many. It's more like, oh, I get to. And, not every mile will be fantastic. But the more you get comfortable with really connecting with running, then you want to get back out there and race. Then you want to feel like you want to get back out there and do more miles. And so really it's letting yourself restart and be okay with saying to yourself, you know what, I really need to get better at running.
So that's a great place to end it, guys. If you ever have any questions for Coach Valerie or on running or on mindset or on strategy, give us a shout at support@runrx.fit. You can also follow us on Instagram. It's RunRX. On Facebook, RunRX Fit. And on YouTube at RunRX. And we've now started a Twitter. We've had Twitter for a while. We're just being more active on it. So if you are one of those people that kind of spends a little bit of time on Twitter, go ahead and find us on Twitter and be a follower. It's RunRX, and we will love to answer you there. We will be posting more videos there, sharing more content there, just trying to kind of meet you where you are as you listen to these podcasts and as you get to know us better. And then, of course, please check out our website at runrx.fit. That's where you'll find out more about joining us and being part of the immersion and being part of working with Coach Valerie. We'd love to have you guys. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the RunRX Podcast. If you'd like to know more, join us at www.runrx.fit. And if you have additional questions that you'd like answered on the podcast, email us at support@runrx.fit.